Am I back? I hope my audio, it looks like my mic is working now. Yeah, I think I'm back. Hopefully my audio is working this time. Thank you very much to Hippie in Paris for telling me that my audio wasn't working. Uh, I probably didn't need to totally restart the stream for that, uh, but I thought maybe OBS was the problem. Not sure what the problem was, but I think my audio is working now. Might have an echo. I want to see if this is working. Yeah. Okay. Audio is definitely working now. All right. Well, I guess I just talked for about 10 minutes with nobody being able to hear what I said. But yeah, I'm in the middle of refactoring this read glyph function. And I need to define a read glyph type. Yeah, thanks a lot for letting me know about that. I probably didn't have to restart the stream, but I figured it out eventually. So I need to make this glyph type. I'm kind of new with OBS and Twitch in general, so when something fails, I might not fix it in the most efficient way, but I fixed it somehow. Oh, I already have a glyph type. Thought I had to create this, but it already exists. Yeah. So we are starting to parse glyph data. I'm using this website called FontDrop to verify the data that's inside of a TTF file. So I'm parsing the font file. I don't know if you've seen any of this font series yet. I think maybe you were watching my interpreter series. This is totally different. Now I'm working on fonts. So I'm trying to parse TTF files, which define a font, and then parse and render that data all within Fortran. So the first few streams have been pretty boring. We were just parsing data without visualizing anything. I think today I might be able to draw a glyph. So fingers crossed. You're just taking in all the wisdom. I appreciate it. Trying not to stress. Are you? Sorry, I get some of my viewers mixed up. Are you the one who's learning Python? I want to cut all of this out. Yeah, you're the Python guy. All right, I didn't totally forget who you are. Let me yank this out and then put this in the function below. Sorry, there's not going to be any Python today. Well, you never know. I might use Python for debugging like I did the other day. So I have this nasty habit of commenting code instead of deleting it right away. Yeah. Oh, you're working right now? I took today off from work, so I'm able to work on this side project right now. Play some Jedi? Is that a video game? Oh wow, it came out today. That's exciting. Okay, the other problem is that I need to pass in these table indices, like loca and glyph. I need to pass these in somehow. I'm not a huge gamer. I've had phases of gaming where I'll get really hyper focused on a game for a little bit and then I lose interest and go on to something else. So right now I'm more focused on programming than gaming. Within the last year I got into Minecraft. I never played Minecraft a lot. I know it's like 10 years old or something at this point, but I never played it before the last year. So I got really into Minecraft for a couple weeks. I also have an Oculus Quest for those metaverse games, virtual reality. So I like to play Echo VR. It's a sport game where you play like a zero gravity handball. Uh, those are like the only games that I've played in the last year. So other than that, I'm not really a big gamer. Okay, so I can shorten this to just glyph, and I don't need to refer to the index. Why is this indented? I don't think I meant to indent that differently. Then I can simplify this too. And I can simplify this. Nope, one too many characters. There we go. In terms of Star Wars games, I used to play more games when I was a kid, like back when I was in high school. There was a Star Wars game for the N64. What was it called? There was a lot of... I can't remember what character I was. It wasn't Han Solo, but it was some guy that kind of reminds me of Han Solo. Uh, One of the first stages or two was flying around on the ice planet Hoth. Yeah, do you remember that one? I know that there were two different Star Wars games for the N64. I only played one of them though. You're a huge Star Wars guy. You missed my stream. Oh, no, I didn't wear it. I have a t-shirt that says "May the Force be with you," but instead of force, it says like F equals ma, like Newton's... Is that Newton's first law or Newton's third law of motion? Where in the US? I'm on the East Coast. I could be a little bit more specific than that. I'm in Pennsylvania. You could probably find that. I don't think this is super secret, highly sensitive data. But yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania. Oh, I'm right by you. Where are you? Again, you don't have to be specific. New York. Okay. I've been to parts of upstate New York. I've only been to New York City a couple times, but I went on a vacation into the Finger Lakes with my parents one time, and I had a friend who lived in Rochester for a little bit, so I visited Rochester once in the last couple years or so. New York City, okay. Yeah, I've only been there like twice for like a weekend or so. I had a cousin who lived in New York City. He got married there. He had a wedding in Central Park, so that was cool. Yeah, totally different than upstate. Yeah. NYC is the big city. It's way bigger than any city in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Pittsburgh or near Pittsburgh, so yeah, New York City is on a whole another level from Pittsburgh and even Philadelphia. New York City is huge. And then I can call this function here. Oh, you have a house in the Poconos. Cool. I've driven through the Poconos region, but I've never really stopped. Wonder if this will compile. I think not. I think I have a whole bunch of mistakes. Yeah. Glyphs has no type. Oh. Should just be glyph singular. It's overhyped. Yeah, the Poconos are overhyped. Yeah. Well, I guess that's why I've never been there. Maybe I'm not missing all that much. Okay, so that's the first error. Glyph has, yeah, so glyph and loca, I'm going to need to do something about that. Do I need to pass the index to? Any plans for today? Well, I took off work. I'm on vacation today, so I don't have to do that. Uh, yeah, I think I'm just gonna Twitch stream here all afternoon. This project has been pretty slow so far. Like it's just a lot of boring data parsing, but I think I might be able to display a character like the way that this website displays this. So that's kind of exciting. I think I want to see if I can stream as far as being able to display something like this. And then after that, Friday night, I don't know, I'll probably just watch a movie on Netflix or something. I haven't really figured it out yet. I'm kind of boring. I don't really go out much or do anything exciting. Oh yeah, yeah. You comment out code instead of deleting it. I go through I go through stages. So the first stage is delete it and then like copy and or, no, the first stage is comment it and then copy and paste it somewhere else and get it working. And then after I get it working inside a function, I'll feel safe about deleting this. But like I don't feel safe about it yet, so I'm not going to delete it. And that's crazy because like I'm using Git. I have version control. Like anything that I do can be undone. So it's insane to have this other level of deleting or not. Uh, no, I'm not really active on Discord. Uh, okay, yeah, yeah. Feel free to invite me. Oh, cool. Coders and gamers. That sounds like my type of people. I I did a series on Temple OS a while ago, this operating system created by Terry Davis. And there were some Temple OS people who invited me to like a Temple OS Discord. I checked it out a little bit, but I wasn't really active on it. Okay, I need to do something about Loca. Let's search for the whole word instead of anything that matches that substring. Yeah, yeah, all right. I appreciate it. Send me the invite. So I need Loca and glyph. Do I really need them, or do I just need the offset of those tables? I think I only need the offset of those tables. You work remote, and your boot camp is remote, so you're home. Yeah. Uh, I work remotely too. I'm taking the day off work though, so it doesn't really matter. What is my Discord? Hold on, let me check that out on the other monitor. I think I have. I'm not even sure. Hmm. Okay, I think I'm okay. Yeah, here's my Discord. Sorry, it took me a minute to find that. Jeff.Irwin, number 9327. So every time I use Loca, I'm just using it to get this offset. Same thing, that this is inside the function. And then for glyph, I think I use this in the same way. Yeah, I only ever use it as the offset. So I think I can move these inside the struct. What do I want to name these variables? I think glyph offset and Loca offset. Yeah, naming things is hard. do it alphabetically. Glyph offset first, and then loca offset. So I should be able to delete these from here. And then instead of doing this, glyph offset is going to be TTF tables at that table index, and then get the offset. So that's loca, and then this should be glyph. I think that's what I want. This is commented out, so I don't need to change it there. And then now I can just do loca offset. And glyph offset is somewhere. I think that should do it, and I probably have a couple other compilation errors here. Yep. I think I need to pass the index, and then I have more local variables that I need to declare. First of all, these are members of the struct. Then I need to pass this index. I think that's a good enough comment. There are some people who say you shouldn't comment code at all, and you should just name your variables and functions in a way that's readable and self-documenting so that you don't need any comments. That's hard to do, so I do include some comments. I don't know if they're helpful to anybody besides me. Yeah, you disagree? Yeah, I do a little bit of both. Like I leave in some comments, but I don't comment everything. Like if you have a line that says I equals I plus 1, I wouldn't put in a comment that says like increment the variable I by 1. Like you don't need a comment for that. But for higher level things like functions where I need to explain what each argument does, I think it's useful to have comments. You have a family in big companies telling me that it's good to comment the important things, especially with new or junior. Yeah, I agree. Maybe if one person is working on a project by themselves, they might not need comments, but if you want other people to understand your code, comments can be very helpful. Okay, so we have the variable I, that's also going to be intent in. Will that fix all of the errors? No. Okay, the integer. Does I really need to be an integer 8? Probably not. What happens if I put it here? Well, now I get a warning, but I think I'm okay with this warning. And I still have one more error to take care of. Offset has no type. that it? Hey, I think that compiled. Is this the same G glyph? 57 and negative 422. I think that's the same if I remember correctly. 57 and negative 422. All right. Okay, so that is successfully refactored. Let's make sure I can still do all the glyphs. That seems reasonable. I might as well make a commit right there. And now I feel safe about deleting this code. I think I can make a commit now. Refactor read glyph as a function. Let's push that. All right. Okay, and then let's go back to focus on glyph G, which is at index 74. So that's the only glyph I care about for now. Okay, that looks good. Now we have the X and Y bounds of the glyph. And what do we have to read next? So we have the X and Y bounds. And then we have to either read a compound glyph or a simple glyph. Now, I think the specification says that it's not necessarily -1. The number of contours could be any negative value for a compound glyph. Yeah, if it's positive or 0, it's a single glyph. If it's less than 0, it's a compound glyph. They do recommend, they recommend using -1. But it's not necessarily -1. So this code isn't entirely conformal with the TTF specification. So let's try to be a little bit more general than that. If number of contours, if it's less than 0, then I'm actually not going to do it right now. Is that right? Yes, so -1 is compound glyph. Or any negative value is a compound glyph, and then a positive value is a simple glyph. Now, how does read simple glyph work? So first of all, we have these flags, which they're not really variables, they're constants. And then if we go to the specification, the first thing is the endpoints of contours. So to explain what that means, the letter G, for example, I don't know which contour is the first. The first contour is the longest one. You can see the size of the data just in the number of lines here. So I would assume that the first contour is the outer one. It looks like they have 0.1 labeled here. I'm not sure what that number 1 means, maybe not. But in any case, some point on this outer contour is the first point of the contour, and then you go around the outside of the letter G, and eventually you get back to the beginning. So that index, that number of points in the outer contour, is the end point of the contour, and that's what this array tells you. And then the second and third contours, they end at some other point. So we should be able to read these. These are uint16. Endpoints of contours. If I go to my glyph type, everything that we read here I have to add inside of my glyph type. This is going to be an allocatable array because its size is going to be the number of contours. I'm just going to call it endpoints. I'm not going to be super verbose and call it endpoints of contours. We're inside this glyph struct, so I don't have to worry about naming conflicts. I'll just call it endpoints. We have to allocate that. And we can do that inside of the readGlyph function after we get the number of contours. I don't know how compound glyphs work. We're not going to handle compound glyphs yet, but for now I'm only concerned with simple glyphs. So I think I'll allocate it inside here. Allocate glyph endpoints, number of contours. Let's see if that compiles. Nope. Did I not make that allocatable? I did not make that allocatable. There we go. Okay, so we allocate it. I think I'd better initialize it just to be safe, even though we should read everything. Just in case I don't, it's better to have this as zeros than some random uninitialized value. And then these are uint16s. So yeah, in JavaScript, you can just push onto a growable vector. Fortran does not have growable vectors built into it. You can implement it yourself, but in this case, it doesn't need to be growable. Like, we know the number of contours before we start reading it, so it doesn't need to be growable. You can just make it like a variable length array with a length of number of contours, which you allocate once, and then you should never have to grow that array beyond the number of contours. Yeah, so we just have a loop, and then we push a uint16. So I can't use I, because I is already the glyph index. So I want to use j. Do j equals 1 through the number of contours. Some of my arrays, I'm making them 0-based, but in most cases I'm going to make them 1-based indices, which is the default for Fortran. The only one which isn't is this glyphs array, and that's because this index, it's 0-based in the TTF file, and then there are a lot of places where this index is referred to. I think for this one it makes more sense to make it a non-default 0-based array. But for a few other things, I'm going to use one-based arrays. And now the glyph endpoints. So this is j equals read u16 iu, and that should be it. And then we can try to print this thing. Hopefully this compiles and it runs without crashing. So we have 55, 70, and 82. So that means the first glyph has 55 points. I'm not going to bother counting all of these lines, but yeah, I would guess that that's about 55. And then we can probably count some of these other ones. So from 55 to 70, that means the next glyph, the next contour, the second contour, has 70 minus 55 plus 1 points. I hope I'm correct with my off by 1 assumption there. So that should be 16 points in the second contour. I might be off by 1. But we have 4, 8, 12, okay, 15. I was off by 1. There are only 15 points. And then the final one, we have 82 minus 70. That would be 12 points in the contour. So is that right? We have 4, 8, 12. Yeah, so this looks correct. It looks like I'm parsing the number of contours correctly. And then after the number of contours, I think instructions are next. Next thing after endpoints are the instructions. And I think I'm also going to skip over these at first. Actually, there's an overwhelming amount of stuff in the instructions, if I'm reading this documentation correctly. So I think these are every possible instruction. Like there are things that adjust angles. Like, look at all this. This is a lot of stuff. Like there's a stack that can be modified using these instructions. I think there's a function call. Yeah, there's a function call instruction. So somehow within a TTF file, you can define functions and then call those functions using instructions. So that seems pretty complicated. If you watched my last stream, the viewer Saeed was telling me about parsing instructions and how complicated it is. Like it's its own programming language that you have to write an interpreter for to be able to correctly execute all of these instructions. So that seems pretty complicated, and I'm not going to deal with it right now. I'm just going to skip over it the same way that Steve Hanoff does in this blog. Yeah. So basically we have the instruction length, which is a uint16. That makes sense. It's a uint16, and we seek relative to that. This is a relative seek. So this is the way that it's done in JavaScript. Apparently you use tell and then you add that. But in Fortran, we just have relative seek built in. And I have to look that up, actually, because I'm using absolute seeks already. Need to go Fortran specifically. Yeah, so 0 is an absolute seek, and now I need to do a relative seek. 1, there's a third option, which is a seek relative to the end of the file, but I want relative to the current position. So that's 1, apparently. And I need to make a parameter for that. And jump back to wherever I was. So we're going to skip the instructions. Then how do I call fseek? We call it like this. IU is the file unit. The offset, I actually have to read the instruction length. Maybe I want to at least save the number of instructions. And then this is a relative seek. So do I want to put this in the glyph? I think I should have this in the glyph eventually. What is this, a U16? Instruction length is uint16. There's uint16, yeah, so that's right. And I need to put this in the glyph type. And inst for sorry, I'm trying to be fancy with Vim. There we go. I selected a word with just keystrokes without using my mouse. So the shortcut for that is VAW. Actually, I think I should do VIW. VIW is visually select inside the word. So yeah, VIW selects the word. Ninst, this is what I wanted to explain. Ninst is what I'm calling the number of instructions. So we read that, and then we seek past it relatively to the current, from the current offset. So that's how we skip over the instructions. Yeah, let's see if that compiles. Because it's part of the type. Or it's part of the struct. So in C, this glyph thing would be called a struct. Fortran calls it a type. Specifically, it's a user-defined type. But it's the same thing as a struct in C. You can also have member functions. Like this get table is a member function of the TTF struct. So you can do that as well. Or it could just be a plain struct which only contains data with no procedures. A procedure means basically a function or a subroutine. So let's see if that compiles. All right, that seems okay. And then what is next? I think if the number of contours is 0, we can probably return a lot earlier. But I don't think we really need this explicit return because here's a loop over the number of points. But the number of points is going to be 0 if the number of contours is 0. So I don't think I really need that early return. We just want the number of points. And that's the max of the contour ends. So like these endpoints are 55, 70, and 82. Basically the number of points is going to be 82 because that's the largest thing in the endpoints array. Sure, PTS. What is the standard call this? The standard doesn't actually have this as a variable. It just says it's an array. It doesn't even tell you the size of the array. Like for endpoints, it says n. Here we don't even have a variable. they say anything about number of points? Yeah, okay. So I'm on my own to come up with a name for this variable. Yeah, let's just leave it as npts for now. I think I want to not nest all this. Yeah, let's just return there, and then I don't need to nest all of this code. Now, npts is the max of the endpoints array. Fortran has two different functions. Max_val works on arrays, and then the other one is max, which is variadic. So this is an array. Arrays go in square brackets, like they do in most languages. So if you have an array as an argument, use the max_val function. If you have a list of scalars, which are all separate arguments to the function, then you use the max function. Endpoints is an array, so I'm using max_val. Let's print that out just to be sure. Should be 82 for this glyph. It's 82. That looks good. Now, what am I actually reading? First are the flags. Yeah, first are the flags. Again, we don't need to have this growable array, which is pushed in JavaScript. We can just allocate a variable length array. And what is the type of flags? Flags are uint8. I might actually save some space because we have a lot of glyphs. So this is where it starts to be somewhat important to not use up a ton of memory within these structures. So instead of making this an 8-byte integer, I'm going to make it a 2-byte integer in Fortran, because the actual type is unsigned, but Fortran doesn't have unsigned integers. So we need to make it the next biggest signed integer. So that would be int16 or a 2-byte integer. And those are called flags. So I'll just name it flags. This is allocatable, 2 bytes, flags. Then we need to allocate that. I'll just copy and paste this thing. I mean, every one of these is red, so I might get rid of that initialization, because it's a pretty straightforward read. And if the read fails, then this whole thing will crash, and it won't really matter whether we've initialized it or not. Okay, so we need to allocate not the endpoints, but the flags. Instead of end contours, this is endpoints. And then we iterate over these. Iterate over the flags. Now, okay, we can't use a do loop. Instead of a for loop, Fortran has this thing called a do loop, but they're the same thing. But this is actually a while loop, right? Because I doesn't just change at the top of the loop. I can change in here if this repeat flag is set. So this needs to be a while loop in Fortran. I'm going to set it to 0, and then, actually I don't want to delete all that. Do while j is less than endpoints, and then the first thing we do is going to be increment j. So we're using 1 based indices here. So if we initialize it to 1 and then increment by 1 at the top of the loop, it will be 1 inside the first loop iteration. So that makes sense. Let me just copy and paste this because it's a bit much to keep switching tabs and going back and forth. I'm still having problems with my clipboard. I figured out that I can use the clipboard for yanking and putting in Vim, but for some reason it's really slow. Like it shells out to clip.exe to put things on or take things off the system clipboard, and it's really slow, which is annoying because in Vim, every time you delete a character, or even deleting a whole line, it puts something in your clipboard. So if I delete the D, that puts the D in my clipboard every time I just delete one character. So if that becomes slow, it becomes really annoying to edit code. So I undid that, and now I'm back into the old way of right-clicking and copying and pasting like that. But it doesn't slow me down because I don't copy and paste that frequently between separate windows or separate processes. Okay, so we're going to have a local flag, and this is an integer 2. It's just singular, it's not plural flags. So flag equals read U6. No, it's U8. I think I need a new function because I don't think I've used this yet. Yeah, that doesn't exist. So I need to make this function quickly. That shouldn't be too hard. Hey, what's up? Yeah, no worries. Everybody has other things to do. You're actually working today, so... Oh, you had to walk your dogs. Yeah, that's a good excuse. So I need a function to read 8-bit integers. That's what I'm doing right now. I have a cat. I never had pets before. I never had pets growing up. And then I recently got a cat about 2 months ago. I think she's sleeping right now. She sleeps a lot, like in the middle of the day. So this is her nap time. Her name is Cali. Fun fact, so the name of this project is Cali. I basically named it after her. In this case, for this project, it's short for calligraphy, but it's a double meaning. So it's calligraphy and it's my cat's name. Yeah, I got this idea to work on something related to fonts a couple weeks ago, and I was like, what should I name this? Because I like to come up with some meaningful name for my projects. And I was thinking, I don't know, maybe like hieroglyphic or something related to hiero or hieroglyphs. And then I thought about calligraphy, and I was like, oh, that's similar to my cat's name. Let's go with that. And then this is only 8 bytes, so we only AND it with FF. And this needs to be 1. All right, yeah, I'll count you in when I need to collaborate with somebody. Is this correct? Let's read a couple and print them. In fact, let's just read 2 and then stop. This probably won't even compile. I'm sure I forgot something. Hey, well, it did something. Let's print these. Any good shows that I'm watching? Yeah, I'm watching Better Call Saul on Netflix. Season 6 came out recently, so I'm watching that right now. I was also in the middle of watching The Sopranos on HBO Max. I've never seen it before, so I'm in like season 3 of The Sopranos, but I took a break from that so that I could watch the final season of Better Call Saul. Have you seen it? Oh, you love it. Nice. Yeah, I really like it. I liked Breaking Bad a lot. I've watched the entire Breaking Bad series twice, but I'm still on the first watch through of Better Call Saul. One of my friends had a really good idea. He said now that like both of them are finished, he's going to watch all of Better Call Saul for the second time because he's already seen it, and then he's going to watch Breaking Bad, and that makes sense because that's the chronological order because Better Call Saul is a prequel to Breaking Bad. But I messed that up. Like I just rewatched Breaking Bad about a year ago, so I don't think I can rewatch that again that soon. Yeah, yeah, I like The Sopranos too. I never had HBO Max until I started mooching it off of a friend of mine uh, about 6 months ago. So now I can finally watch it. Let's print this flag. Yeah, I pay for my own Netflix at least, and I pay for like the two screen account. So I have my parents mooching off of me on Netflix, but then for HBO Max I mooch off of somebody else. I hope I don't get banned for saying this. I hope I don't. I hope Twitch doesn't care about me discussing piracy. But like I'm paying for the two screen account. I don't even know if it's against the terms of service for Netflix. I heard that they were going to crack down on account sharing, but it doesn't seem like they're starting that, at least not in North America. Yeah, yeah, I hope not. This is a 1 byte flag, so I think it's 2 hex characters, and I think this should format correctly. 1734. Uh, oh, the Dominican Republic. Okay. Yeah, I heard that they were cracking down in maybe it was just South America, but I think they backtracked on that too because they announced that they were going to start crack down on password sharing, but then like everybody freaked out and I think maybe their stock started to go down, so they backtracked that a little bit. Yeah, yeah, like if they start cracking down on account sharing, honestly I might just cancel my Netflix account because their content is not that good. Like, if you've never seen a movie before, if you're not a movie person, then I think the Netflix library is pretty good. But like, I've seen most good movies that have come out in my lifetime. So in terms of movies that I haven't seen, like I can't really find anything good to watch on Netflix. So if they start cracking down on this, I'll just cancel my account and use HBO Max for a while. Or maybe I'll like rotate and use like one streaming service for a few months and then cancel that and use some other streaming service. But I really don't want to have multiple streaming services that I'm paying for separately all at the same time. Yeah, I used to use Hulu back when it was free. Back around like 2010, Hulu had free accounts where you would just watch commercials in the middle of the show. So that was good. Let's see, 1734. Let me read a few more of these flags. Okay, let's take a look at this font file. Let's Let's use the hex editor. You have 6 subscriptions. Wow. Yeah, I think I only have 1 streaming service, or 2 if you count the one that I'm mooching. Oh, okay. You and your buddies each pay for 1 and then you share. That's the reasonable way to do things. That's not so ridiculous. 17. I want to make sure that I'm reading these bytes correctly. So 173436. It looks like I'm not going to bother trying to find where this offset is. I might as well print it. So I think I already have it up here. I can print the offset. It says offset is 6ED4. No, that doesn't seem right. Oh, but there's a bunch of stuff, like there are instructions that I'm skipping over. And I don't know how long the instructions are. So here's 6ED. That's at around line 1700. The problem with hex editors is it's hard to search. Like, I don't know if these bytes are aligned. It might not be 1734. It might be 17 and then a space and a 34. Okay, there it is. So we were on like line 1770 before, and then there's the instructions. Why don't I use an IDE? I use so many different languages that I don't know if an IDE would be that helpful. Like if I always programmed in C++ or C# or even Python, then I might use VS Code or Visual Studio. But I program in so many weird languages like Fortran and Bash that I don't think an IDE would be that helpful. So I've always used the VI editor or Vim, and then recently I started using NeoVim. So it doesn't really matter whether you use VS Code or Vim or which IDE or which text editor you use. As long as you know how to use it, it's fine. So if you like VS Code, that's fine. Vim is just my thing. Yeah, I never started using NeoVim until about a month ago. My problem was that I was using a workflow where I would have every file open in a different window, and then I would spend a lot of time using my mouse to jump from one window to another, and then go to terminals as well. So now that I'm using NeoVim along with tmux, I feel like I waste less time using my mouse. Yeah, terminals. It's like there's a steep learning curve with terminals and with Vim, but once you learn how to use it, I feel like it's very powerful. If you learn a scripting language like Bash, or if you start to use these Unix utilities like grep and things like that, it can be really powerful. So let's see, 17343637, 3637, 2635, 2635. It looks like I'm reading these flags correctly. So I feel satisfied with that. Maybe I'll leave that printed in there. And then I also have to push this into the flags array. So glyph flags J equals flag. I think I'll refer to this variable enough that it's okay to have a copy of it. Like this is a local variable, and then this is the same thing inside of an array. But if we look at this JavaScript, which I have commented out here, like we refer to it so frequently that I don't want to type out the glyph struct in the index of the flag. So I think it's good to have this local copy. I think I can take this out. Okay, now these should be the flags for all 82 points. I don't think I care about whether it's on curve or not yet. If we go back to this blog, he actually doesn't reference this anywhere else. So these are the only two occurrences of on curve. So he sets it based on the flags and then he never uses it. So I think I don't care about this variable for now. But I'll leave a to-do note for myself. So we got the flag, we pushed the flag. I'm not going to bother with this yet. And now we have to check if it repeats. So how does this work? So this is a constant. It's 8. Yeah, without giving specifics, I probably don't want to talk too much about work, but I work for an engineering software company, and I use Fortran for work. So that's why I do things in Fortran, because I use it for work, and it's the language that I know best compared to any other language. So repeat is 8, and this is a parameter. In Fortran, instead of calling them constants, Fortran calls them parameters. So that's what that means. And so basically this is testing an individual bit. This is testing the repeat bit of the flags. So I'm not sure the best way to do that in Fortran. I think I could use and, but there's also like a bit test function. I think it's a little bit cumbersome though. I think it might be simpler to just use and check if it's non-zero. I have to be specific with Googling. And Fortran, this is what I wanted to find. So I think it's easier to just use this. Bit extraction. How is bit extraction different from test? So this can have a length that's greater than 1. But I think and is easier than bit testing. it's intense. Yeah. It's an array-oriented language, and it's good for number crunching. So if you're not working a lot with arrays and you're not doing a lot of math, then Fortran probably isn't the right language. Uh, you hate math? Yeah, then don't use Fortran because there's no reason for it if you're not doing math. You, you have to pick the right language for the job or the right tool for the job. And Fortran is not always the right thing to use. Uh, the only reason I'm using it for this project is for fun. It's not necessarily the best language to parse and render a font with. I think I want to see if this compiles. Doesn't. Oh. Flag. I think I want to make this 2 bytes as well. And then you're so hyped to begin applying for jobs, but sort of nervous for the technical portion of it. Yeah, it's been a long time since I interviewed for a job. So unfortunately, I probably don't have too much advice for that. I know people will like practice elite code and things like that for technical interviews. I haven't really done that. Uh, so I didn't really have a technical interview for my current job. I got my current job because the company that I used to work for was acquired by the company that I work for now. So that's how I got into it. So I want to check if this is not 0. Yeah, I'm lucky. Okay, so that compiled now. And then we have a repeat count. We have to read a U8 for that. Don't know if we actually have any of these for the current glyph that we're reading. Okay, so we do have some repetitions, unless I'm reading this data wrong. It's entirely possible that I'm reading this correctly, and there really aren't any repetitions, but looks like we have 1 there, and then 2, and then 101. That doesn't really seem right. Oh, I know. I think I know what the issue is. So whenever there's a repeat, we have to increment I, and then that basically, or increment j, not I. Am I using I accidentally anywhere? No, I don't think so. Let me just replace this now. Yeah, so every time there's a repetition, the loop variable gets incremented. So then that cuts down on the number of things that we read from the loop. So over here, this is probably reading past the end of the glyph data. So this isn't correct, but the first few probably are correct. It's like up to here at least is probably correct. And then maybe somewhere after here I start reading gibberish. So we have to do j equals j plus repeat count. Fortran doesn't have a plus equals operator, so I have to increment things like this. I think I need another integer counter. Oh, I never declared j. Oh, wait, yeah, I did. It's down here. So we have j, and I think I need k. So we're going to do, before I increment j, you have to do k from 1 to the repeat count. And then we have to save this flags array. But this isn't j, or it can be j if we just do j plus 1 in here. And that should be the same as this code. Yeah, and then if we unpack the flags into the individual booleans, we have to make sure that that happens for the repeated flags too. And I think that's it for the flag reading. And now this should probably not print 101. Yeah, that looks better. So the last few are 23, 22, and 7. If we scroll up, 23, 22, and 7, and then we kept reading, but this was wrong because I wasn't repeating. So now this stuff is gone, and we end right there. So I think that's better. Maybe I can delete this now. So I think that's it for the flags. So we did all of this. Yeah, I think that's it for the flags. And then next is reading the coordinates. I think I need to grab a drink and a snack real quick. So I will take like a quick 30-second break and be right back. Okay, I'm back. But I'm going to be eating on stream, so I might not talk as much. I mean, I don't know if it's really healthy. It's like 260 calories. So if you want to be healthy by not consuming a lot of calories, this probably isn't that healthy. But I went to the gym yesterday, so I think I need it today. Slice of pizza. Yeah, yeah, that's fine. I might not read it out loud for the stream, but it doesn't bother me. So next are the coordinates. I'll just paste this JavaScript and then comment it out. Just make this a little bit more compact. Now what Steve does in the blog is he has a function and then he calls the function twice. I don't think we really need a function for this. I think we can do a loop. Basically a loop from 1 to 2, where like 1 is x and 2 is y. So I think I can use a loop instead of a function for this. And then he also has these flags, x is byte and x delta, and y is byte and y is delta. But if we look at the values of those things, basically y is byte is 4, and x is byte is 2. So the y bit is always twice as much as the x bit. And it's the same thing for the delta. We have 16 and 32. So I think this can translate really easily into a loop instead of a function, because then on the second loop iteration, we can just multiply this thing by 2 instead of like passing it as an argument to a function. So eventually my plan is to do this with a loop. But at first, I'm not even going to have a loop. I'm just going to read the x coordinates. And then I'll try to verify with this website. I'll try to compare with these x coordinates to see if those are correct. He has this thing called value. I feel like that might be a bad variable name. It's really a position, either an x position or a y position. So I'm going to call it POS for position. And I'm actually going to search and replace all of those. There we go. This is one of the reasons I use Vim instead of VS Code. Like I'm sure there's a way to do this in VS Code, but like I just type in this text. I don't know if you can see the stuff that I'm editing at the bottom of the screen, but to like search for value and replace it with position, you just use this command. And this syntax is actually the same as sed, I believe. So there's this command line program called sed, and you can use this to search and replace things in files as well. Have I used it recently? Well, I've used it for, no, I haven't used it recently. But one of the things that I use sed for is to like fix the new lines in files, because like Windows has one convention for new lines and Linux has something else. And sometimes like those get messed up and it breaks one of my scripts, which won't run on Linux if the line endings are wrong. So I use sed to search and replace line endings like that. And then that syntax is the same as the syntax in Vim. So it's like instead of having to learn how to search and replace in VS Code, you just learn one syntax for searching and replacing. And then that works in your text editor, and it works in sed, and it works in like any place that you could possibly imagine using it. And then the GC at the end means like do it globally, like do it in the whole file, or no, do it in like every place, even if there are multiple occurrences on the same line. And C means comment, so like it will take me through. And if I undo that, well, that was too much undoing. Hold on, I undid too much. Okay. Yeah, so the C means it takes me through and it prompts me. It asks me replace this one, and then I say yes or no. So like I actually don't want to replace this one. This is from like a comment. So I'll say no, no, yes, 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 and now it's replacing them. And then that's it. So I'm sure there's a way to do that in VS Code, but I just don't know how. But I know how to do it in Vim, and it seems like the Vim way to do it is pretty powerful. So I thought this might have to be a while loop, like we did for the flags, but I think we can just use a do loop, because the only place that J changes here is at the top of the loop. What the hell does he name this thing? X is byte. There it is. I was trying to tab complete that, but I was struggling. So then, this is just for X for now. When I do the Y coordinates and when I refactor this as a loop, I'll have to do something clever here. So X is byte is 2 and Y is 4. Two and 4. And then I want to have a variable that's just is byte. And this variable will either be this or this, depending on whether I'm reading an X coordinate or a Y coordinate. So I think I want to do it like this. And then I can use the variable here. And this will be easier to refactor when I do the Y coordinates in addition to the X coordinates. I think I want to quickly see if that compiles, because it's easier to do this incrementally than doing a whole bunch of stuff at once. Right. I have to check if that's non-zero. It's the same thing we did before, reading the flags. Basically, I have to check if the I and is not equal to 0. So it's the same thing here. Okay, now delta flag is either going to be x delta or y delta. So I need to define those two. I think they're 16 and 32. I'll have to double check in a second. Yeah, 16 and 32. I just want to get like the skeleton of this logic typed out before I like fill in the body of every single branch. So this is not flag. I have to be careful with the order of operations because is it not flag first and then the and operation? Or does it do the and operation and then the not? I think the not binds to the flag first and then the and operation is second. How do I do that? I actually don't know. I and see, not is logical negation, but I want bitwise negation. Well, that doesn't really have what I want. Okay, there has to be an equivalent way to do this. Is it exclusive or? No. I don't think it is. Oh, okay. So instead of bitwise not, I can use bitwise exclusive OR to flip every single bit if I set this to like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, or FF. So that's how I can do logical not. So where does this go? It should go in this else if. So I need exclusive OR to do the bitwise not. Then I need a bitwise AND too. And then this, it's basically 1 byte. I'm using a 2-byte flag, but that's only because it's a signed integer in Fortran, but it's really a 1 byte unsigned integer. I guess I should do FFFF. So flag and then FF. I might be able to get away with just this, just 2 Fs for 1 byte, but I think this should also work. And I feel safer like this. So does that even compile? Okay, that compiles. Now what's next? Okay, this is just a pure else, it's not an else if, so that's right. You have this else if. This is like a do nothing, so we don't even need this really. And then outside of the branch, but inside of the loop, right? This is inside of the loop. We have to set the points. So I need a new variable in the struct to hold the point coordinates. I think I'm just going to call it x, even though it's x and y. And then what is the type? It's an integer, but I don't necessarily know how big it is because we keep adding things relative to the previous point. I might as well make it int 8. I'm just going to call it x, and it's a rank 2 array. So like the first one will be x or y, and then the second one will range through the number of points. So we'll have to allocate that. We allocated the flags already. And then before, like, what am I doing? This should all be outside of this loop. So this loop handles the flags, and then there should be a a sequential loop that reads the x coordinates. And then I can lose a level of indentation now. I can unindent all of that. Why did I put this there? Yeah, so it's outside of the loop, that's the important thing. This is x, and it's going to be 2 by the number of points. The 2 is for x and y, and then there's the number of points. So it's a rank 2 array. It's like a matrix or a table of all of the coordinates, both x and y. So I need to set that right here. It's glyph x j. Yeah, j is the point index. That's from this loop. And then 1 is because we're reading the x coordinates first. And then when we read y, this will be 2 instead of 1. And that is just POS. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's see if that compiles. Okay, well, it ran without crashing. Now let's print those to see if those have been read correctly. Well, that doesn't seem right. It's all 0. Oh, yeah, because I haven't actually filled in any of this stuff. But at least it compiles and runs, so that's nice. Okay, so in this case we add uint. In this case we subtract. And in this case we add, but it's, yeah. In this case we add, but it's int 16, and it's signed, it's not unsigned. This is do nothing. Okay, so I think that should be it for x. Let's see if this is not zeros now. That doesn't seem right. These numbers are too big, I think. The first few might be right, but I think we go wrong at some point. So what is this supposed to be? It's supposed to start at 57. But does it really start at 57? Or is this like it's relative to x min? So I think I have to add x min to everything, or at least I do if I want to compare it to what this website shows. But then like the largest thing that we have is like 965. Then we have 993. So I think the largest x coordinate that we should expect is 993. But I'm getting things that are way beyond that. And then I think relative to x min, then I'll have to like subtract x min or add x min. So it starts out with 6, 6. And that doesn't really make sense either. how much did this jump? This jumped by 101. Man, I hope this website is correct. Can I select all? No. Really no easy way to select all of that. There we go, I think I got everything. So let me reformat this and convince myself that this website is correct. Yeah, 3 viewers. Yeah, I'm doing numbers now. Yeah, I appreciate the moderation. Come on, scratch g contour 0.txt. Let me reformat this stuff. Let me get rid of all the x equals. And then let me replace the y equals with a comma. Copy all of that, and then I'm not going to do my visualization in Fortran. I'm going to do my visualization in this program called Scilab. If you've ever used MATLAB, Scilab is like a free version of MATLAB, kind of. So let me paste this data into here. Actually, let me just use this existing script that I already have set up. So that should do nothing. I might have this transposed row. Every row, first column. Yeah. I think that's what I want. Oh, that looks like a G. I have the final line of the contour messed up. It should go back. So like, let's say this is the first. Let's say this is the first point. Then it goes around, goes all the way around, and eventually gets to here, the last point. Now the last point of the contour should go back and connect to the first point. So in my quick one-line plotting instruction, I don't do that. So it's missing one line, but this is the letter G, basically. So I've convinced myself that this website is not showing me total garbage. And now I have to figure out how to get my code to match what the website is showing me. Oh, here's something interesting. Look at this jump. We go from 63 to 164. If I select that correctly, 63 to 164. That's a jump of 101. The problem is it's like 3 points in, 2 or 3 points in. But if we go back to this website, we have a jump of 101. It goes from 57 to 158. That's a relative jump of 101. So somehow I'm getting that relative jump correct. 57, 57, 158. Yeah, but I'm off by 1. So it's like there's 1 or 2 bytes that I just forgot to read. So we read the flags. I'm not even 100% sure that I have the flags correct. And then I go straight into reading the x coordinates. Hey, Cal. My cat's in the room. What's up? What are you doing? Good girl. So is there something that I'm forgetting to read? We skipped the instructions, we did that already. There are the flags, it reads the flags. And then he jumps straight into coordinates. But something is off by a little bit. Maybe I'm misreading the flags. How does the repeat count work? So there aren't a lot of repetitions in here. There's a repeat count of 1, and a repeat count of 2, and then 2 more repeat counts of 1. So do I handle the repeat counts correctly? I think this should be okay. Oh. No. I was wondering if this should be less than or equal, but no, it should be less than. Because I'm putting the flag in here. What if I print the flags at the end? I should, all of my flags should be defined. Yeah, I think I had this before and I deleted it. Let me initialize this. I shouldn't need to initialize it, but just to double check that I'm reading everything correctly. Instead of printing there, I'll just print all of them at the end. And I might as well just print them in decimal. So it looks like the final flag is 7. These are all the flags. The last one is 7. So if there was a 0 here, I would know that I didn't read all of the flags. And maybe I didn't get the repeat command correct, or I had some other off by 1 error. But it's not 0, it's 7, so that seems okay. And then why are my x coordinates wrong? Let's see what that says. So it's a little bit of everything. We have U8s. And then assuming it's correct, we also have no ops. We have plus U8 and minus U8. And we have a plus I16. So basically we have every possible branch of this conditional tree. We go into here and we go into this else branch and we go into this else if branch and the no op. So we hit all of these. But if I'm misreading the data, that could all be wrong. how do I compile this? Am I compiling with debug flags? Yeah, so there's this compiler option called fbounds check, where if you try to subscript outside of the bounds of an array, it will stop with a runtime error. So I have that enabled, so I'm pretty sure all of my indexing is not going outside of array bounds. What the hell, let's just recompile it from scratch. Yeah, it's the same exact thing. Am I initializing X? I don't think I initialized this. So I'm initializing X now. Okay, so I just wanted to check that like the end of the array wasn't zeros. So this is getting read. This is not just some uninitialized part of the array. But these numbers should not be that large. Because if we look at the values that this website is showing us, like the biggest X coordinate should be 993, if I've looked at all of these correctly. So if something is like 1500, that's wrong. If something is negative 15,000, that's totally wrong. Hey, Kelly. Say hi to Twitch. There she is. Good girl, Kelly. Good girl. No, I could always claim that I was successful today because I did visualize a letter. I just didn't do it with my own code. I copied and pasted the coordinates from the website. So hopefully I can get to a point today where I can do this with the data that I read instead of this data, which is probably wrong. Hey, Kelly. Twitch is saying hi to you. This isn't food for you, this is food for me. I'm sorry, Kelly. Come on. Good girl. So why am I not reading this correctly? I only use I right here. Maybe I want to rename this variable so that I don't accidentally use I for something else. I mean, it's intent in, so that should stop me from accidentally doing anything bad with it by like changing its value. Basically, intent in means it's immutable in Fortran. Like spelled glyph correctly instead of like the weird 4-character tag syntax that they use in TTF files. Okay. I know this is unrelated to my bug, but I just want to make this as safe as possible to prevent myself from doing anything stupid. And now I could have a local variable I if I want to, but like I've already used j everywhere. Anything that happens at the endpoints, contour ends, +1. Oh. Is that? Yeah. I think that might be it. The number of points is actually the endpoints +1. I think that's because they have n-1. I think I read something about this in the TTF spec. It might not be on this page, but it's somewhere buried in the documentation. I don't want to spend too much time looking for it. I don't think it's in this page, but basically you have x coordinates for all of the points in the glyph, and then you have one additional point at the end, which like positions the cursor for the beginning of the next character. Like if you're typesetting one character at a time, you write a glyph for the current character, and then you move your current position to the start of the next character before you write it. So that's like one extra point that gets added to every character. So I think that's why there's a +1 here, and I totally forgot this. I thought maybe this is like just an off by 1 indexing correction, but it's not. There's actually like a separate point that I think I totally forgot about. So let's see if that helps, because that would sort of explain some of the problems that I'm having. That looks a lot better. Yeah, 57, 158. 993. I think these are correct. Let me format these differently so that they're like printed in a column instead of printed like, this is actually one line of output, but it gets like wrapped around the width of the terminal. So let me just format that differently. I think we're making progress. Where did all the viewers go? I'm just getting to the good stuff. They weren't patient enough. So I think I don't need to initialize those. Okay. Say I6. This means write an integer 6 characters wide, and then this is a vector, so it will just repeat that on separate lines. I hope 6 is wide enough. These should all be like 3-digit things. So this is a little bit more readable. And then I should be able to verify this. position our windows all nice. And then it's this tab. Yeah, so we have 57, 57, 158, 246, 156. And let's just jump to the end. I'm not going to read all of these, or I'm not going to verify every single one of these. The last few are 365, 309, 276. That looks right. I think that's it. So that's X. Now I still have to read Y. And then after I have X and Y, I can actually plot this data somewhere. I'm not going to plot it in Fortran today. I'm going to do the same thing where I hard coded this data in Scilab. I'm just going to paste into here because Scilab is really easy to visualize things. Like after I have my data, it's just one line to plot. So this is a lot easier than writing stuff to visualize in Fortran. I'll do that eventually, just not today. So today I just want to try to get the letter G and visualize that somewhere, even if it's not in Fortran yet. Yeah, Scilab is a pretty good tool. It's like a free version of MATLAB, so MATLAB is just as good, but you have to pay money for that. There's another competitor called like Octave. I think it's GNU Octave. I spelled that totally wrong. There we go. Yes, I've never used Octave, but I think it does basically the same thing. So that's X. Let's read Y. Do I want to try to do it as a loop right now? Yeah, we could do this a really dirty way. Oh, thanks for the Discord edition. So we can do this a really dirty way. We can do k equals 1 to 2. Basically, this is looping through x and y. And then this is all going to be nested. And then there's going to be a better way to do this, but at the end of the loop, I'm just going to switch these to the y values. Yeah, so on the first pass through the loop, these are going to be the x values, and then on the second pass, they're just set at the end of the loop. So this will only work if you're looping through two different things. Eventually I'll do this with a multiplication, so this is just a nasty hack. I'll try to do it with multiplication later so that it's not this bad. So there are a couple other things that I have to change. So this, instead of 1, it's now going to be k. And that should set the y values. Yeah, and the way that this guy is doing it on his blog is he has a function for it, and then he calls the function twice. But instead of doing that, I think it makes more sense to have a loop. And JavaScript is crazy. Like, so he's actually subscripting this array with a string. I guess you can do things like that in JavaScript, but it doesn't seem like an efficient way to make an array. It's like more of a dictionary than an array. I don't know if that's the same thing in JavaScript. Like some languages, I think you have like a curly brace for dictionaries instead of square brackets for arrays. But in Fortran, you can't do this with built-in types, so you have to make it an array. I think that's the reasonable thing to do anyway. So that's x. let's just print the y's as well. So yeah, I6A, I6, that should work. Separate it with a comma, and then we'll have y. That should be formatted pretty nicely. Nope. Ah. What's wrong with that? Oh, okay. I think I can do it like this, and then just the whole array, not individual 1 or 2 subscripts. So let's see if that is correct. Are those y values correct? So y should be -162 and -96. -162 and -96. And then let's look at the last couple. 776 and 721. That looks correct. So I think I'm just about ready to export this to some file and then plot it. I've only been streaming for 2 hours. It's not terribly long. I think I can do this in a nicer way. So I'm trying to think if I just want to plot all of these as one line. I could do that first and then show you how to do it the better way. First of all, this is all a simplification. I'm treating the glyphs as like a series of straight lines. Yeah, it works. It kind of looks okay. It doesn't look perfect. So this is how the glyphs are supposed to look. Why did I scroll away from that? Yeah, so G, it's like nice and curved. These aren't line segments, they're Bezier splines. If you look at the way that Steve Hanoff does it. Thanks. You admire the way. I admire you thinking I understand how you're doing this sorcery. It doesn't feel like sorcery to me. It feels like just something that I've spent about like 10 hours working on at this point. So if you stared at this for 10 hours, I'm sure you could do it too. Yeah, so I want to drag and drop this font into Steve Hanoff's blog. So this is the font file that I'm using. It's a Computer Modern from LaTeX. And he does the same simplification that I'm going to do. He's treating everything as straight lines. You can see it in the capital G. It's less obvious in the lowercase g. Actually, yeah, like, and the letter O. Like, this is, the outside of the O is basically an octagon. Yeah, the letter O is not really an octagon. This website displays it correctly. So this website uses splines instead of straight lines or line segments. Yeah, basically blue is, all of these points, the red points and the blue points, are control points for the Bezier spline. And then the blue points are points that are on the curve, and red points are control points that are off the curve. So if you imagine connecting these with straight lines, you would get an octagon. And that's the way that this guy does it, and that's what I'm going to do for today. Eventually, I'll try to get the splines correctly, but that's going to be a lot more work, so I can't do it today. Anyway, before we even get into the distinction of splines versus straight line segments, the contours are another thing. So I'm just going to plot this data all at once and see what that looks like. Let me redirect that. and then reformat it over here. So I want to delete everything up until the X and Y coordinates. Okay, so now my whole file is just these numbers. And then I should be able to copy and paste this into Scilab. I don't think it matters whether it's separated with commas or not. So let's plot this. And now this is coming from my code. This is not something that I copied and pasted from the website. I copied and pasted this from my code. And we should see the outside contour of the G like we saw before. And we should see like the hole in the top of the G and the hole in the descender of the G. But they're all going to be connected as one line. So you're also going to see lines going in between the inner contour and the outer contours. So yeah, this is it. So if I turn on data tips, like I think this is the first point, and then it goes around the outer contour. I'll jump around a little bit. If we get the aspect ratio right, that looks a little bit more like the letter G. Yeah, so it goes around the outer contour, and then it jumps to the inner contour. So this is the inner contour now, and this line segment should not exist. That's not part of the letter G. Then it goes around this hole in the descender, and then that's the end of that contour. So then it jumps to the hole in the top of the G, and then it goes around this inner contour. So that's the dirty way to do it. The one small improvement that I want to make today is that I want to fix these jumps in between the contours. Like I want to delete those and say I have 3 separate contours that aren't connected to each other. So I think I can fix that easily enough. Like I want to get rid of this line segment. My cursor's kind of, the data point is kind of jumping all over the place, but I hope you get the idea. I think I'm going to commit this now, and then we'll make the improvement of splitting this up into contours. Do I prefer Windows over Mac? Yes, I prefer Windows. Well, the short answer is no. I hate every operating system. Like every operating system has flaws and it has things that annoy me. Linux is kind of nice, but the problem is like you can't run Microsoft Word on Linux, so things like that are annoying. And you always have to end up doing things like building software from source code on Linux instead of like just finding somebody else's binary distribution. So there are little things like that that annoy me about Linux. Mac is okay, but there are little things that annoy me too. Like when you download software from the internet on Mac, it will pop up a window that says like this developer could not be verified. Let's see if I can find what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is it. Just wanna view the image full screen. Here we go. So sorry for how blurry this text is, but like when you download software from the internet and try to run it on macOS, even if it's your own software that you built and uploaded it to the internet and then re-downloaded it, it gives you this pop-up, which is really annoying because like it's like one click. You just have to go into your settings and make one click, but it's like you have to do that every time you download something. So Uh, that's one of the things that I don't like about Mac. I guess Windows is the OS that I have the least problems with. Uh, but I have problems with this too. Like I'm actually running in something called WSL. This is like Ubuntu in WSL, and WSL stands for Windows Subsystem for Linux. Don't know if this will say anything or not. Well, I definitely have WSL. Yeah, can I search for it here? Yeah, so WSL is the Windows subsystem for Linux. And this is what I'm running in. This is how I'm able to run tmux, which is like my tab manager here. So like I can switch from this tab to this nvim tab. They're technically called windows, not tabs, but it's like a tab. And the only way to run this thing on Windows is to run it inside of WSL. So like if I was using Linux directly, this would be a little bit easier to get to. But yeah, I kind of I have a gripe with every operating system. None of them are perfect. But overall, if I had to pick one, I guess I would say I like Windows the best. So I think I can, oh, there's JavaScript here. I might as well delete the JavaScript. I'm gonna comment out these. Don't think I care about the flags. Let me make sure that still runs. Okay. Don't think I care about the repetitions either. And there's one more print that I forgot. Yep. Okay, so I think that looks good for now. Where was the last point? When we plotted this, there was that last point that was messing up my off by one error. I don't really know where that is. I guess it's this one. Yeah, so I don't really understand why the number of points is off by one. And this is like the last thing that we fixed before getting it working. I don't understand that. But anyway, I think I'm ready to commit this. What was the last thing that we did? Okay, so that's that. And now I want to try to break these contours, to break this line up into multiple contours so that I don't have line segments like this one running in between the outer contour and the inner contour. So I want to clean that up. And we can do that with the endpoints. So this endpoints array tells us that the first contour ends at point 55, and then the second contour ends at point 70, and the last contour ends at point 82. So then we can break these up into multiple contours. So there's going to be an outer loop that goes through the contours, and then there's going to be an inner loop that goes through the points within that contour. So I might as well use J. I think I have I now. Well, if I haven't used I don't want to start using I now, so I'll use J and K. So the outer loop goes through the contours. And then I basically want to print out Scilab code so that I can copy and paste whatever this prints straight into Scilab. So I'm not going to bother with this header, but I want to print everything except for the header. And then even the plotting code. All right, yeah, have fun. Yeah, after I finish this stream, I'll add you back on Discord. Yeah, so I'll get around to it, just not in the middle of the stream. Thanks for dropping by. I really appreciate the interaction. So endpoints tells us where each contour ends, but we also need to keep track of where the contour starts. So I need this temporary variable k0 for that. So for the first contour, it starts at 1. And then after this loop, we're going to update it to basically the endpoint plus 1. Or is it plus 1? I think it's plus 1. No, because I need to do a plus 1 here to account for the off by 1 errors, because like the TTF uses 0-based indices, but Fortran is using 1-based indices, so I need to add 1 here. And then I need to update k0 to be the endpoints plus 2, I believe. I might be wrong about this, maybe I'm still off by 1. But I think it needs to be plus 1 here, and then plus 2 here. And I just want to print this data. So we print every point in the contour, and then we also need to loop back to the beginning of the contour, right? Because if we look at this, we're actually missing a line. This point should then go connect back to the beginning of the contour, but I'm missing the line segment there. And then instead of that line segment, I have this other one that shouldn't be there. So I'm missing a segment and I'm adding a segment, but in here I should be able to correct for that. So after that, we want to print one more to go back to the beginning of the contour, and that's K naught. And then we close the array, which matches up there. And then we loop again to do the next contour. And let's actually just print the entire Scilab source code. So we're also going to print the plot command. And then like I can copy and paste straight from this console output into Scilab, and I won't have to edit anything. I just paste it and immediately run it. So that's one more print. And I think that should do it. So let's see if that works. All right, it printed something. And then I don't know if I can copy and paste straight from here. Probably not. Yeah, because if I select like this, I can't scroll. Oh, I can scroll. Okay, maybe this will work. I might have to like redirect it to a log file and then copy and paste from that. Yeah, this isn't easy. There's probably a way to do it, but I'm just not that good with tmux yet. Come on. I know it's in there. Oh, there's a space. Okay. So I want to copy all of that and then paste this into Scilab and just run it. There it is. That's a G. Obviously, it's still straight lines instead of Bezier splines, but now all of the contours are connected correctly. Like we're going from, yeah, you can see that that's one contour. And now the final point of the contour connects back to the first point. That's somewhere around there. I forget which point exactly is the first one and the last one. And then this contour is something entirely separate. It happens to intersect with this one, but it is a separate contour. And then this one obviously doesn't touch anything else. So that's letter G. Let's see if we can do some other letters. So G is 74. I don't know, what's an interesting letter? O is born. Q looks kind of cool. I don't want to do Q. It's just too politically loaded. Maybe a $sign. I think $signs are pretty cash money. No, let's do like something that's not ASCII. That might be fun. As long as it's not a compound glyph, because I can't do compound glyphs yet. Like this might be a compound glyph where like the E is one simple glyph and the dot is a second simple glyph. So I can't handle that yet. What's a cool letter? How about capital Xi? Let's do capital Xi. Which index is this? So it's Unicode 039E, and then it's index 327. The thing that I need is the index. So let's do index, what was it, 327? 372. 327. This should also be 3 contours. I think I didn't copy that correctly. Okay. Copy, go into here. There she is. And Xi looks pretty good because Xi happens to be a lot of straight lines already. I think there are a couple curves up here, which I'm mangling and treating as straight line segments, but it happens to look pretty good. Is there Cyrillic in here? Let's do something Cyrillic. Whoa. Some of these characters are crazy. I don't even know what this thing is. Well, let's not get too carried away. Let's do the she. I don't know how to pronounce this. Is this she or esh? Whatever this character is. Let's plot it. So it's index 426. Let's do index 426. Eventually, like I'm just doing one character at a time. Eventually I will load all of the glyphs, and then I'll have some other function which takes like a string in addition to a font struct, and then it will typeset your entire string in the given font. But like this is day one, this is the very first letter that I visualized. So for now, we're just doing one letter at a time, and we're doing it inside the read TTF function. But like everything from here onwards, yeah. Well, it's inside the read glyph function. So like this stuff really doesn't belong inside the glyph reader. We're going to take this out and we're going to make some other typesetting function. But for now, for day one, this is where it is. Yeah, and let's see this esh or sh, whatever it's called. So we should see like the number of points should change. Yeah, so now we have 79 points, and if we copy and paste this into Scilab, of course it like plots in my other window, so I have to drag the window over here, but like there it is. So I think that's probably it for today. I might do a little bit of more work off stream, but my voice is getting kind of hoarse, so this is about as long as I can talk. So I'm just going to get this committed and then end the stream. I think that's it. Let's make sure that my CI is not broken. Okay, so these last couple commits ran without crashing. That's good. And this commit already passed on Ubuntu. I don't have testing yet, because there's not really anything to test yet, but this at least checks that it compiles and runs without crashing. So this runs. There should be standard output that we can see, like the source code that we plotted. Yeah, so it's doing that. I'm not gonna verify if this data is correct. Well, we can at least look at the last couple numbers. So what were we getting locally? Yeah, 223,470. 223,470. That's this might not be the entire log. Yeah, this is not the entire log. This is just the first contour. And then something's not right. Did I push everything? I don't have anything that's untracked. Am I looking at the right commit? Oh, it is one contour. Why are the numbers different? Something is not right on Ubuntu. Windows doesn't even run because I think GitHub Actions has a bug that makes it impossible to run G-Fortran executables on Windows. Yeah, so these runs do not look correct. So this is what we plotted, right? And that looks correct. Let's see what the GitHub Actions are doing. Let's copy and paste this into Scilab. So this is the start of the Scilab source code. This is valid Scilab source code, but like this is the stuff that I need for plotting from here down. Yeah, that is not great. So somehow I've written code that works on my machine, but it doesn't work on the cloud in the GitHub Actions instance. So I don't know what to do about that, but I think I'm done streaming. So I'm going to call it a day. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and who commented. I really appreciate it. And I will catch you next time. Bye.